All right, so this is once again a kind of improvisational discussion of what has come to our attention, what has come to a contract in Phi through Theta's attention regarding the vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, who was recently selected as weird Donald Trump's, weird running mate. I guess, weirder Donald Trump's weird running mate. And I guess what makes Donald Trump slightly weirder is the fact, that J.D. Vance is unlikely to embrace, hug, and sexually assault the flag behind him. Although, rumors of his relationship with various couch cushions suggest that he's not entirely beyond such activities. Although, he continues to, falsely claim otherwise. But where's my couch cushion? But it has come to our attention that he has questioned the racial background and identity of Kamala Harris, who is well known for being a biracial, U.S. citizen whose mother is of Indian descent and whose father is African American. And we won't get into the whole Confederate slave-holding racist 1% rule that presumably J.D. Vance's fascist and KKK and white supremacist voting bloc all support and believe in. But we just simply don't have time. And I want to shift the focus elsewhere, but and it is slightly odd considering that I don't know if any these are images of J.D. Vance, by the way, if I haven't spelled that out for my viewing audience. It is slightly odd considering the fact that that J.D. Vance's wife is of Indian heritage, and presumably he understands that his own children are biracial, and I'm not exactly sure what the claim regarding Kamala means. If it means that the mother is the determinate parents in sorting one's hereditary and cultural and ethnic and racial, with some of those terms I don't even really believe in, but they certainly provide tools for the white supremacist establishment to utilize in their various white supremacist projects. But there he is once again, not sexually assaulting the flag, as we've seen Trump do. But and there she is. Presumably he understands that his own children are the results of a marriage that whatever we think of the sorting procedure, right? Like. Oh, it gets interesting, Obviously, he hasn't studied in the history of racial segregation either in the United States or outside of it in apartheid states like South Africa and Israel. But in any case, it's a weirdly, paradoxical sort of position to put oneself in when, his own children are in a similar, ethnically and racially, this is the word I want to use, vulnerable, right? status here in the racially charged United States, that he would assault a vice presidential candidate in terms that that threaten his own family's identity and his own family's safety. I mean, that to me is, and he does it in the name of family values. Well, if I had family values, the first thing that I would do is protect my own family by not espousing, racially bizarre, weirdest views that, that threaten. There's Trump wearing his ear cover there. But like I said, we're going to leave all that in abeyance because that's not really the focus that I want to address here. What I want to address is in a way that I think is just sort of visually obvious, and we won't get into the whole family background and everything, but these are all images of J.D. Vance from a Google search, an image search, and he's always basically in the same attire, and it's a navy blue jacket, or maybe perhaps occasionally black jacket. You can't really tell. Perhaps I think that's either black or navy blue, depending on the saturation of the photograph, and typically has a red tie, but occasionally a blue tie. Almost always a white shirt. It's almost always a suit that he performs in, and I just want to point out that that this gentleman identifies himself as a hillbilly, and I'm not just making that up. That's the name of his book, right? Hillbilly Elegy. So this gentleman here, he identifies as a hillbilly. Now, okay, so I did another Google search, an image search for hillbilly, and I just want to make a visual comparison and note that that he looks much less like a hillbilly than Kamala Harris looks either like an Indian American or an African American or a biracial American, which is actually what she claims to be, and what most intelligent people would allow her to claim about herself. But what I really want to question is J.D. Vance actually a hillbilly? Because when I did this, and this is just a regular, ordinary, Google search, and here are all the images of J.D. Vance. All right. Here they are. And to my knowledge, J.D. Vance's, father and or mother were not, hillbillies. They weren't born in the Yarkeys, Arkansas, or the Blue Ridge Mountains, but relocated there, which is kind of interesting because under the new relocation laws, if this were American citizenship, right? If you're not born there, and even if you are born there, now, if your parents weren't, you aren't, right? So the law as it's been constituted is that if you were born in the United States, you're a United States citizen. But the 2025 project wants to remove that citizenship status. And, technically, under that regulation, I think that's pretty close to the end of the images. No, they keep going. There's a lot of pictures of J.D. Vance here. J.D. Vance, since he wasn't born in hillbilly territory, wouldn't, technically be a hillbilly anyway, even under the new status. And then, because his parents weren't hillbillies, I believe. I mean, I could be wrong, but he doesn't qualify for that anyway. And here's another image of J.D. Vance's wife, who has children with him, and the children have a big question mark in terms of their ethnic identity, I guess now, because we know they're not white, because if it's the mother who determines the ethnic and racial and cultural status of the child, then in fact J.D. Vance's children are Indian, right? And by that same logic, I guess all of Trump's children are Russian. Other than what's the new young one's name, Barron, and I'm not actually sure what racial identity he would hold in relationship to the super genius model that had some kind of cultural attaché immigration status that allowed her parents also to become U.S. citizens, in spite of the fact that no one was born here, and the 2020 Project wants to take that license away anyway. But whatever, because they're so what is it? The Genius Award. Very stable. Okay. Anyway, let's not get into all that. But switching very quickly, I don't know, I'll find a decent picture of JDCCV, and there he is, JD, Couch Cushion Vance, and pretending that he's a hillbilly and holding up an image of his 5 hillbilly grandfathers, and here's the Google search, the image search that represents hillbillies. Okay, well, so this person here, even these folks look very different from this folk. I have to question, I'm not sure, who this person is that posed for the picture of Hillbilly Elegy. Presumably they're pretending to be relatives of this gentleman, but they don't dress like him, and their comportment is very different. And even in the picture here where he's wearing a t-shirt, they don't have the hillbilly, okay, this woman has her legs spread, and this one has the overalls and the t-shirt and the dowdy hair, and this guy looks relatively urban in relationship to that. Now this guy, he has his legs spread, but I think this is something else. This is the Hillbilly Channel, not Hillbilly Elegy. And here's an old-fashioned picture of the hillbilly. Here's another one, Hillbilly Elegy. I remember. Here's a lot of this one. So anyway, maybe this is pretending to be his family. But see, here's a more accurate depiction of a hillbilly. This is the one that's familiar to most of us. And here's some more. So it's often a shirtless overalls or blue shirt over. Here's another example. Boy, I seriously doubt the hillbilly status. See the beard here, and then the beard here. All these beards, right? Do they look like this beard? That's a very different style. There's all different style beards here than this guy here. So even if he were related, to these folks who look more like hillbilly, this one, okay, they look more like hillbillies to me. And presumably, if this is his family, this one's pretending to be mom, and this one's pretending to be sis. Well, the pretend mom and the pretend sis look an awful lot more like hillbillies than this guy does, or than this woman does. Now, is his wife, Usha Vance, pretending to be a hillbilly by marriage? Because she doesn't dress like a hillbilly. I mean, she's fairly stylish. I hesitate to put her in this category at all. But I'll go back to some of these images and see if we can do further visual analysis. This could be the same one. Hard to tell because there's that kind of dowdy, long-haired, disheveled look that goes along with the category. Is that J.D. Vance? Is this J.D.? Now, if this is J.D. Vance here, he's looking an awful lot like a hillbilly here. But maybe this is just a cinematic representation of J.D. Vance, and he never looked like that. And maybe his mother never looked like that. I really don't know, because I'm not interested in that project at all. This gentleman, I have no doubt, is a hillbilly right here. Okay, moving down. Hillbilly, hillbilly. Again, notice the comparison with the beard. That's not the same. Does that outfit look like a hillbilly? I don't think so. I think we can highly question this identity. Hillbilly, hillbilly. More hillbillies. They obviously haven't read the Code of Flag Behavior. That one could be J.D. Vance. Hard to say. I mean, they start to look quite a bit alike to me. There's an actual J.D. Vance. I'm not sure who his Appalachian friend is. I guess Mom again. And more historical hillbillies. There's Hillbilly Party. Ron Howard, who I didn't know was a hillbilly. I thought, oh, okay, so maybe this explains something. Ron Howard defends hillbilly elegy. Okay, so I guess these are all actors. Isn't that the term they like to utilize when they refer to anyone who's politically engaged as an actor? I can't remember what exactly the term is, but this hillbilly stuff is just all a bunch of actor nonsense. This guy, maybe he plays J.D. Vance in the film. He looks more like a hillbilly than J.D. Vance. Yeah, so here's the actual J.D. Vance here. There's the pretend, fictionalized J.D. Vance playing the hillbilly. He looks more like a hillbilly than this gentleman does. And here's a very hillbilly-looking actress. And here's Ron Howard looking like enough like a hillbilly to direct this film, I guess. Here's a cartoon depiction of a hillbilly. And here's the cover of the book. Here's some, I don't know what, white evangelical hillbilly ceremony. I don't know, to drive out demons or just to inspire racial divisiveness. I don't know. These guys look very hillbilly to me. These are like the apocalyptic neo-fascist Christian hillbilly contingent, similar to the guy here in Albuquerque who is some kind of fake, pretend survivalist, and I try to be nice to people to the best of my ability until they verbally assault me and threaten me with physical violence. But I was leaving this guy wood, that had fallen from some of the oak trees in the local park here called Roosevelt Park, presumably named after a gentleman called Roosevelt. And I don't know, and I knew he was kind of a kook, but I didn't think it would get this far. And then one day, I don't know what it was, but suddenly it turned to Trump, and he started, praising and espousing the virtues and glory of this person that I just think is the best argument for the Antichrist that I've ever heard. And I said very casually and politely, well, let's not get into all that. I'm not really a particularly big fan of Donald Trump, and I really did think that was the most positive and euphemistic way of putting it. And suddenly, the level of aggression just escalated, and he got himself all worked up, and I was name called, and a lot of misogynist names, and other kinds of names, and I had my dog Casper Hauser's learning curve with me, and we were sort of standing there like behind his truck, and he yelling at me to leave and threatened to run us over. And I tried to point out to him that all of this like vitriol and aggression and violence and stochastic terrorism was all just a projection, because the only thing I had said was I'm not a particularly big fan of Donald Trump. And anyone who knows my politics would realize that that really is truly like a very euphemistic way for me to put it. And these guys kind of remind me of that guy. I guess he lives like about 6 blocks away from me. Then it just goes on and on and on, but it's not unfamiliar, right? Okay, so further hillbillies. Let's see if we can close that. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr. Howard. You made some good work. I liked A Beautiful Mind. I'm not so much sure about the hillbilly elegy. Okay, so just like taking us out here, you know, comparatively, like this guy right here, right? Like hard to imagine him married to this beautiful woman here. And to me, that suggests that this guy has some identity issues going on. And maybe it's those identity issues that this guy has going on that inspires all the projection of like his feeling like he has the right. This guy with his 5 little fingers, you know, has the right like to tell Kamala Harris like who she is and how she should racially identify. And I guess, you know, maybe, you know, he feels the same way about his wife. He tells his wife, you know, who she is and how she should racially identify. Here's another hillbilly. There's our hillbillies that live on spruce and silver. I mean, they really aren't. I mean, but they just remind me of him. Like the potential for like violent engagement at the drop of a hat. Although this guy's hat seems to be somehow tied to his head. But here's a hillbilly reading the Trump Bible, I guess. Or anyway, I think I made my point. It's a young hillbilly in training, I guess. Guy looks like a Texan, but not necessarily hillbilly. Roaming hillbilly. He's like the hillbilly of the high plains, I guess. Hillbilly. That doesn't look like a hillbilly. I'm not sure what that looks like, but it's not a hillbilly to me. Welcome, hillbillies. Musical hillbillies. I actually like I like hillbilly music, really. There we go. Takes a while to get to the music, I guess. Maybe we can do oh, there he is. Okay, so this is the first image of someone in the hillbilly category that looks like anything like J.D. Vance to me. And here's another one that looks a little bit like J.D. Vance. So maybe I'm wrong. No, wait a minute, that is J.D. Vance, isn't it? Yeah. So I think this one just ended up there because of the book title. See, Hillbilly Elegy. Probably the same for this one. I know what a true hillbilly is. See if we click on that, what we get. I know what a true hillbilly. Yeah, I got it right. And it's not J.D. You liar. Falsely ethnically identified non-hillbilly. What a jerk.